Hey girl, welcome to the Win a Pageant podcast. I'm your coach, Alycia Darby. On today's episode, you get to meet Amber Lilyestrom. Now, Amber is a business and branding strategist. So you might think, well, Alycia, why are you having a business strategist on the Pageant podcast? Well, because actually Amber won her very first beauty pageant ever in the Mrs. America system. She was Mrs. New Hampshire America 2016. And when she shares the story about how this came about from her, I really think that you are going to relate. She does an incredible job of setting herself up for success before even walking into the pageant. She shares that with you, how she did it in this episode. And what I love so much about Amber is that she's so real. She's gone through a lot in her life, many ups and downs, and she's overcome so much. And she shares with you how, and really gleans the lessons that you can use to apply to your pageant and to your business. And in the end, she even gives an opportunity if you are someone who's thinking about starting a business, you've got an idea and you really just need to know the direction and strategy for it. You girls know I love step-by-step plans. Amber is your girl, so she shares how you can get in touch with her there. She's also a podcast host herself. She has a podcast called Soul Fueled CEO. That's a tongue twister for me. I don't know how she says it so quickly, but it's Soul Fueled CEO. Really, this woman is absolutely soul fueled. So without further ado, here's Amber.
Hey, Amber, thank you so much for being on the Win a Pageant podcast. It's awesome having you here.
Hey, Alycia, I'm so honored to be here.
Yeah, so I've been following your work like a stalker since I found you. Because it's great. It's so uplifting and for business women specifically. So you are a business strategist, and I would even say just like an inspirational human that does human experience so well. And so that's how I kind of got on track of your work and have been following you. So such an honor having you here. For those that do not yet know you and aren't yet addicted, which they will be after this, could you just share a little bit about your background and how you got into doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, thank you so much. You're so kind. I really appreciate your words. So I was a collegiate athletics marketing administrator for about a decade. That was my first job out of college. I was the captain of the women's soccer team at UNH, my alma mater, and then I started in that career. And really, it was an opportunity to be super entrepreneurial because we were a lean department with a small staff, and so we got to do lots of things. And I was exposed to just so many cool people and incredible leaders and teachers there. I actually also got the opportunity to then teach sport marketing at the university too. So it's funny when you look back on the dots of your life, you know, where you've been led to, how it has all been leading you to it. And when I became a mom in 2013, after a life-altering experience, I almost died during her birth. I stopped breathing on the operating room table. And I just had this spiritual awakening and this realization that this wasn't it. You know, I wasn't really doing it. And I knew there was more. And I had these visions of myself actually like in that moment. And I came out of that operating room a different person with a different trajectory, and also now a mom, which is a whole nother dynamic. And it's like, you know, you want to come home to yourself, you know, have a kid, because you really can't lie to yourself. You know, when you're a parent, you have this little tiny mirror walking around 24 hours a day. Yeah. And I really want to be the best version of myself for me, but also for my daughter, you know, every day. And so I launched my business in 2014. I'm going to make this story seem like it was really easy when it wasn't, but I took a course, I worked with a coach, and within 8 weeks, I left my corporate career of 10 years, launched my business, and now work with clients all over the world and helping them launch their brands, their businesses, and really create a lifestyle that allows them to come home to who they really are so that they can serve from their deepest calling and connect really, you know, inwardly in terms of what their soul is leading them to.
Yeah. So, and we're going to unpack that specifically the lifestyle and how do you see those visions and bring them to real life and into fruition and stuff through business. But first, I want to ask you about your pageant experience because you are also a pageant girl. So along this path, how did pageantry become an interest for you?
Well, I started doing fitness competitions back in, I want to say it might have been somewhere around like 2010, 2011. And so I competed with a fitness team and had my opportunity to get on that stage. And I just loved being on stage. I loved all of the prep and the fun around it. I loved the sisterhood. I loved connecting with all these women and training with them and just being in the trenches with them, and also tapping into, the mindset stuff that was helping me get through all of those hard trainings and preparing for getting on stage. And so I learned a lot about myself in that process and more about what I wanted, and really had this huge immersion in personal development through that process of doing fitness competitions. And so in 2016, in the springtime, I had definitely been interested in the Mrs. America pageant system. I had gone and watched a few friends compete who had won, and there was definitely some like dabbling and some interest, but I didn't step on stage. And then one of my friends, Carrie Alex, who was Mrs. New Hampshire America 2012, called me in, I think it was maybe May. It was early May of 2016. She said, "I have great news." And I said, "What's the news?" And she said, "You're doing Mrs. New Hampshire." And I said, "What's the great news?" Because I was like, oh man, it just felt like a huge undertaking. And the pageant was on June 26th. So I was like, 2 months out from it, seven weeks out or so. And just thinking, I have no idea, what goes into this. I did a fitness competition, and that took a lot for me to learn how to do that. But I knew that a pageant was a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's like you're adding the gowns, you're adding the interview, adding all these extra phases. Mm-hmm.
Yes, all of the above. And I had no experience with gowns before doing pageantry. And obviously, the interview thing was no big deal. I was really excited about that part. In fact, that was actually one of the things that turned me away from fitness competitions, was that I didn't feel like I was being evaluated as a whole person. And I saw the depth and the magnitude of these incredible women who'd worked so hard and were stepping on stage and were being evaluated just by their bodies. Right. And I just thought, you know what, I don't really want to do this anymore, because this is really not painting a beautiful picture for these women. I saw a lot of struggle in that space. And so pageantry felt a lot more holistic for me. And so I said, hey, you know what, this will be an opportunity to meet incredible women, to push myself. I'm definitely one of those people that if you give me a challenge, and if I'm afraid of it, then I walk in the direction of the fear, because I know there's a huge opportunity for growth and expansion there. So, I've walked on fire. I haven't jumped out of a plane yet, but that's on the list. I'm the person that's like first in line for the roller coasters, front row, hands up in the air. So I said, let's do this thing, and prepared. And Carrie was so generous and so helpful, and such just a beautiful friend in the process, and helped me with everything in preparation for getting on stage for the Mrs. New Hampshire America pageant.
Mm-hmm. I'm not at all surprised that you had a mentor for that. As a coach, and myself, I coach women that compete in beauty pageants. And I know that those like yourself that understand personal development, and having someone that has gone before you kind of show you the way. So that was your first ever real beauty pageant, and you won.
Yes, I did. It was incredible. I believe there were 9 of us, 9 or 10. And I remember actually this moment right before we were calling out the finalists. One of the girls said to me, "So this is the first time you've ever done this?" And I said, "Well, technically, yeah. I did fitness, and I've been a speaker, and I've done all these things, but technically, yes, this is my first official beauty pageant." And she just looked at me and like sort of awestruck. And I just remember being really humbled by that, but also just being like, I promised myself, and I think you'll really love this. I promised myself that day when I arrived at the pageant, I had my gown, I had all my stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like really, there's a lot happening here. And I pulled up, and I was by myself because I was there a little bit early, as you know, for rehearsals and all these things. And I just said this little prayer in the car, and I just said, you know what? God, the universe, love, infinite intelligence, divine mother, all y'all.
Get everyone together.
Let's all just like bring it in here. And my greatest wish today is that I am able to be where my feet are and be fully present for myself, and to not abandon myself at any point in this experience. And so that meant, when you walk into the room for the first time, and I will tell you that I walked upstairs, I walked backstage where all of the setup was. I had been told there were going to be 3 women competing, myself included. I walked upstairs, and there were like 10 gift bags. Whoa. And I'm like, that's way more than 3. Yeah. Oh, girl. And I had that moment. I just said, you know what? Be where you are. Be where you are. Like, this is, I truly, my heart was so open. I was so excited, literally, to just meet the other women. And also, I knew that they were going to be feeling the same way that I was going to be feeling. And so it was a really beautiful opportunity for me to love on them, and to just be like, to be light for them, and just to make it fun and take the pressure off and make jokes and just like have a good time, because that's really what it's all about. And I promised myself that, and that's really what happened. That's really how the day unfolded. It was such a cool day. And I just remember as they called me up, to be a finalist, and then, I was in the top 2, and then it was just like, I was not getting ahead of myself. I never had a moment, and this was not the case when I did fitness pageants. So I knew that this was a huge difference, and I had really gone through my own evolution of just being like, oh, when they said my name, and just being literally genuinely surprised, like, because I was in the moment. I wasn't worried about who was number 1 or 2 or 3 or what. I was just literally right there. And so I think that that message is so important for us and the way we live our lives. You know, be right here. Be with your child as she's a 3-year-old. Don't regret anything that maybe you could have done better. Don't worry about what's in the future. Just be with her now and soak in all of it now. Be with yourself where you are. You know, maybe you finished first runner up and you're disappointed in that, but just be with that version of yourself and really celebrate her, because she's the one that's going to help propel you towards when you do wear that crown down the path.
Oh, so true. And I love that you are coming back to the long-term vision and the intention, really, of what am I doing here? It's not just about whether or not I win, right? It's not just the outcome of this pageant that really has anything to do with anything, but really the experience. Tell me where you learned that skill, because that's a skill. And to have the wherewithal and the nerves of the day and the craziness and the cars packed and you're like, what's my family doing? Do they have the tickets? Do they know where they're headed? Do they, you've got all these things spinning around in your head. And yet you had the wherewithal and the skill set to say, okay, hang on. Let me center myself. Let me control a mantra, which is just be here, be right where my feet are. Where did that skill come from?
You know, so I've been an athlete all the days of my life. And I played soccer growing up. I was a gymnast before that. My parents are both athletes. My brother was the captain of the Yukon track and field team as a pole vaulter. I think that, in order to perform and being a performer in an athletic format and forum, you have to be present. You can't be thinking too far ahead, because you can hurt yourself, in those cases, especially as a pole vaulter with my brother, right? And you just in order to bring your best to the stage or to the field or whatever, you have to come whole. And so I learned that as an athlete. And then I also witnessed my teammates and some of the sort of neuroses and challenges that they were faced with. And I've always been someone who considers herself to be a leader. I've always been a leader. I came into this world ready to be the one that steps in and does what's hard. I remember a specific moment in my collegiate athletic career, and we were in the semifinals in playing at the University of Hartford. We were going to overtime, and then we ended up going into penalty kicks. And I did not play 1 minute of that game. I had a dramatic knee injury. My VMO muscle was actually basically stretched out and torn my senior year. And I could hardly run, but I could still warm up. And I was the captain of the team. So I was like still training. I was like, well, I'm going to get some cortisone shots and I'm just going to kind of gut through this. And it got to the point where we were taking the penalty kicks and nobody wanted to take them. And I remember this specific moment where my coach looked at me and he said, do you want to take it? Now, I knew physically that I wasn't in the best condition to do that. I was freezing cold. I'd been sitting there for 90 plus minutes. And I had this moment come through my head, and it was, you know what? I'm strong enough to make it. I'm strong enough to miss it. And so I'm going to step up and I'm going to take this on my back and I'm going to do the very best that I can, no matter what happens. I'm not marrying myself to the outcome. I'm just going to show up and be present for this. And so athletics gave me an opportunity to really practice that, in so many forums, and you're trained by yourself all the time. I mean, I played a team sport, but in order to be my very best for my team, I had to go run and go to the field by myself and kick the ball and train and do all these early mornings and late nights and all this stuff. And so I think that tenacity and that commitment and that passion has just always been in me. It's something I witnessed with my parents, and then I practiced it over the course of my life. And so when it came to the time for pageant, it was game day. Yeah. It was just like, it's game day. It's time to step up and be right here and bring my very best to the stage.
Yes. Wow. It is interesting, the parallels, and competition is competition, whether it's an individual sport or a type of pageant or something that has
right.
I love sports where if the ball goes in the hoop, they got a point, versus pageantry that it's like, it's so subjective. And so oftentimes we work this in our mind to mean something that it doesn't really need to. It's just, okay, hey, you are who you are at this moment. I love what you described about use that experience to propel you forward. So I want to bring back to that you glossed over a very important element, which was when you are giving birth to your daughter and you nearly died in that hospital room. And you mentioned that you had dreams of yourself that you were like, that's what I need to fulfill. Can you take me back to that experience and explain to me what that really felt like, and how did you see these dreams?
Yeah.
What did you see?
Yeah, so I was experiencing a high spinal tap. So anyone in the medical field will understand what that means. Essentially, my diaphragm was frozen, and so I couldn't breathe for myself. They had a bag valve mask over my face, and that's when I realized like something's not really going right here. And I could feel my lung volume just like getting smaller and smaller. My ability to breathe is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And I started to feel like I kind of transcended it out of consciousness into this space of just anger. Like the first thing I felt was anger and rage and frustration, and this feeling of I knew very clearly what I wanted to be doing. I want to be an author. I want to be a speaker. I want to be a writer. I want to be a coach. I want to be a leader. I want to, be the visionary leader and share from that place. And it was like, it was right there. I could see it all. I could see that version of myself. And it was like, you're not doing it, Amber. And so it was this beautiful awakening moment. And then from there, I had this out of body experience, and, and I don't know, like, I don't know what actually psychologically was happening for me, but I felt like I was actually floating over the room where my husband was with the camera. I could see him in the room, like setting the camera settings, making sure that it was ready, like walking back and forth, just waiting for me. I could see him, and I asked him questions later, and I could also see my parents in the waiting room. And I remember asking my mom distinctly, Mom, what were you guys doing when you were waiting for me? And she was like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, like specifically, what were you doing? I was like, were you walking back and forth, like watching the news, and we're just walking back, and Dad was sitting playing with his phone and his camera? And she said, yeah, that's exactly. And I modeled exactly how they were sitting. My mom was like, yeah, that's exactly what we were doing. And so, I had this out of body experience. And then I kind of like came back to myself and had this very visceral feeling of, and very just like overwhelmingly beautiful sense of love and gratitude. And it was like, these people, my parents and my husband, love me so much. And I just knew, because I was where I needed to be, I was safe. Even though I didn't feel like I was okay, I knew my daughter was safe. It was just this like deep intuition, this deep feeling that everything was going to be okay no matter what. And I literally did think I was going to die, but I was in this place of extreme gratitude, extreme love, and then extreme surrender. And as I went into that place of surrender, I literally, as soon as I clicked into surrender, could breathe again.
Wow.
And everything opened, and I was like back in the room. Everything was fine. The anesthesiologist said, go, 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 and yelled at the surgeon to tell her to go fast and do the surgery, because I was in an emergency C-section situation as well. My daughter's heart rate was high. I was not doing well. I had a fever. They got her out, and she was born, and it was like, okay.
Wow.
Like life is completely different now. Life has completely changed for so many reasons, motherhood included.
Wow. So how have you held on to that vision? Because lots of people, maybe not lots of people go through those types of experiences, but I think that we do come to a place in our lives where God kind of is shaking us and saying, I have a purpose for you. You are intended for something incredible and something great. And I think many of us have that experience, and it's one thing to answer the call and to move in the direction of that dream, and it's another to say, maybe I was just making that whole thing up. Maybe that really wasn't real. I'm just going to go this way instead and just keep on going with what I know, with what's familiar. So what happened for you that allowed you to honor that moment of, okay, I'm doing it all wrong, and I want to answer the call? Because it's not easy, as you said. You're like, I'm going to make it sound easy. We know that it's not. To step into that calling. What was it for you that really led you?
Well, it was a process, I think, but I do remember one particular day Ani was born in August, late August. I had maternity leave for 3.5 months. It was November. And I remember I was kind of preparing to go back to work, and I was starting to feel all the feelings of like, I love my job, but I love this baby more. And I love the vision of what I know I want more. And this job is not going to position me for the vision that I had and what I know is so clear and what I've always wanted all the days of my life. And so I had this conversation with my dear friend, Emily Ballard. She's an incredible writer. We grew up together. We were on the phone, and she said these words to me that like still can ring in my brain. And she said, Amber, and I was crying and saying, I don't know what to do, Em. I don't know what to do. I'm just like so struggling with this. And she said, Amber, this is your life. And she said it like that. This is your life. And the emphasis was on the word life. We only have one life. at least in this go round, right? And you can kind of extrapolate that into whatever your beliefs are and all that. But at least in this physical body with these humans right now at this time, it's one go round. And I remember it hitting me just like, an arrow just straight in my heart. And this realization that, you know what? You are so right. And I have created this whole story around how life has to be. And I can create a new story. And so I went back to work and did what I needed to do, but it was very clear when I got back that, I felt like an alien. I remember like listening to what the problems were and the challenges were and thinking like, this is not that important to me anymore. It doesn't have the same weight that it used to. And so on December 31st, 2013, I wrote a letter to my future self, my 2014 self, for opening on December 31st, 2014, and said, I am so proud of you for walking away from your career with dignity, integrity, and love, and incredible gratitude. I am so proud of you for launching your business and hitting these levels of success that have been all you've ever dreamed of, and being fully present for your daughter for the moments that you don't want to miss. And I wrote this whole letter, presupposing that this was all going to happen. It was like as if it was already true. And I will tell you, when I opened that letter in 2014 in December, every single thing I wrote in there had happened.
Wow.
And it was just like, waterfall tears and gratitude, and just the realization that we can do anything if we put our mind to it, and if we put our heart behind it, and we align what we've known all the days of our life, because that is the truth. We're just too afraid to admit it. Anything is possible, truly.
Amen. I agree completely. I've done that exercise before too. It's really, really impactful because it brings the feelings and the emotion, the why kind of component into everything. So you started this business. So you left that job, you started this business. How did you know right away? Because you had lots of ideas. I want to be a speaker. I want to be an author. I want to have a business. I want to spend more time at home.
Right.
So you, and sometimes when we have that vision, it comes all at once. How did you sort through it and say, okay, here's what it could look like. Here's where I want to begin.
Well, I knew one thing. I knew that I needed to make my number. Okay. Which was how much money I had been making in my corporate job to keep the lights on and to keep a roof over our head and my family fed. And so I was super focused on knowing that number and then translating that into how many clients that meant I needed to be working with. And so I really broke that down in just a very logical way. And then I really opened to attract them in and just taking action daily to connect and share what I was excited about and to share the gifts of what I was helping my clients achieve. And so that was my number one focus in my business, was happy clients and attracting more happy clients. Yeah. And then from there, it was like, well, what are some fun projects and what are some fun ways to really express what's important to you and to attract other clients in that need your support and need what it is you do.
Yeah. So tell me, what type of client is ideal for you to work with? Like when you said, I wrote this down and wanted to attract them, who is that?
Mm-hmm. So it's a woman who is, she's probably multi-passionate. She's probably in touch with her spiritual side, no matter what that means. It doesn't matter to me. It's really just that you are connected and realize that there is a divine force that is leading you forward on your journey, that that it's not all lost and not all hopeless, that there is more. And so those are two main components. And then the other piece is that she's ready to take action. It doesn't mean she's not afraid, but she knows that it's going to require her to take action, and she's ready to commit to that. And she's ready to partner with somebody who is going to provide strategy and provide steps along the journey that are going to feel really good, and they're going to help her, but they're also going to be uncomfortable because it's going to force her to push herself past that sweet little nest of comfortability that keeps us safe, right? And really like help her step into the fullness of who she really is. So it's generally someone who's really feels like there's more. This is not it. I need help. My business is not growing, or I have this huge business idea and passion that I want to take to the next level, and there's something missing, and I really need a partner who's going to walk with me on the path to getting there.
So is it someone that, because many women competing in pageants have multi-passions, and then they go through the pageant experience and develop multiple skills. They can really do so much and serve people in a variety of different ways, and they want to do the business thing, and they are like, I just don't quite know where to start. Or I know a lot of people get into MLM business. LipSense is huge right now. And then maybe they don't attach into the right group, or they don't have the right coaching along. So if there is somebody listening right now that's like, I've always dreamed of being business owner, but I don't really have that idea. What would you recommend for them? What tips do you have?
Well, I think, I definitely believe in the network marketing model. I'm actually a professional network marketer with Arbonne, which is a botanically based health and wellness company. And it's been a huge enriching experience in my life. It's helped me connect with other women who I've also had the gift of coaching in other ways too. And so I just think like just how I thought about pageantry, it was just a way for me to connect with more women and to serve more women. And I really believe that most of our pageant sisters, they want to make a big impact. They want to help people. They want to serve. And so I think about how can you find a business opportunity, a vehicle, or a tool that's going to help you continue to serve? Because that's really what pageantry is all about at the core. It's about service and helping others. And if you can create a business model that's going to allow you to do that and also make an income because you have to. There's no shame in making money. It's an important part of the process. Because here's the thing, one of my most exciting experiences as Mrs. New Hampshire America 2016 was standing on the stage with Haven, New Hampshire, which was my platform, this organization that supports the recovery of and prevention of domestic and violence and sexual violence. And I stood on the stage and I shared my story of being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And I not only shared my story and encouraged over $15,000 worth of donations that night, but I wrote a check, a significant check from my company to give to Haven. So I was serving not only as Mrs. New Hampshire America, but also as an entrepreneur, as a mamapreneur, saying, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I kicked off the giving that night. And it was so inspiring to the room of people that were there. There were teachers raising their hands saying, I can give $20, but I want to. I'm so inspired by her courage and sharing her story so vulnerably and so courageously, and then also giving back in this beautiful way. And so that's one of my most favorite stories, just to show the impact that we can make, as female entrepreneurs and of course also as beauty queens.
Yeah, love it. How has pageantry, or even being a title holder specifically, how has that aided your business, and how has your business prepared you for that title?
So I'll start with the business piece. I think the business prepared me for the title simply by helping me stand more firmly in my truth and knowing who I am. And so by creating a brand, a personal brand, as I am, Amber Lilyestrom, it helped me really know who I am. And then when I sat down in the chair for the interview, there was no hesitation. There was a lot of confidence. There was a lot of connection. And I think that, speaking to so many people through my business really helped me to speak well to those judges and to connect with the other women there, and to connect with the audience and not be afraid on stage. And so it really helped me from that kind of confidence perspective. I think pageantry has aided my business in the way that, I've connected with so many women, all over the world. I mean, going to Mrs. America was one of the most fun experiences because I got to meet all these incredible women, and we have these beautiful bonds. And I've still connected with some of the women that I competed with at Mrs. New Hampshire. And I think that it's just really this like symbiotic, beautiful relationship where one serves the other. And it really is about the heart connections and the people connections.
So you mentioned brand. In pageantry, one of the things that oftentimes women struggle with is truly identifying what is my pageant brand, that will help the judges see my consistency across all phases of competition and will allow them to show up during their year as their truth. Do you have any tips for brand development, or how does one know? How do you discover what is my brand?
Yeah, so that's what I do the best.
Yes.
So I'm also a branding coach, branding strategist. And the reason why branding really works so well for me, here's my definition of branding. Branding is our sacred opportunity to be who we really are. So we get to then create a platform, a business, a website, a whatever, a wardrobe, all of these things that speak our truth to others through all of the sense elements, if you will. So in terms of the look and the feel and the touch and the communication and all of those things, branding is how you feel as a result. I use the example all the time because it's so clear. You walk into Walmart, go ahead, girls, walk into Walmart in your mind. You get an experience, right? There's blue, the color, it's cool colors. You might smell Subway because that's in there, right? There's an experience. You walk into Target, there's a different experience. Red, It's warmer, right?
So good.
Immediately there's a Starbucks, different experience, right? But the brands are communicating and they're touching on your senses and making you have a feeling. And so that tells your brand story. So how do you translate Walmart, Target to brand you? It's how do you want to make people feel in your presence? What story do you want to tell in the way that you show up and how you communicate and how you connect with others? And so when you just ask yourself those questions and you tap into that and you tap into the definition, my brand, my personal brand is the sacred opportunity to be who I really am. I hope that feels really life-giving and really freeing and not so segmented and shut off, because branding in and of its sense, it's visceral. You cannot hold it. You cannot touch it. It's just a feeling.
Yeah, it's very different than the have to, should, need to.
Yes.
It's those, when we put
Correct.
those ourselves in those boxes, as oftentimes pageant women do, because we think we should be like the last title holder, or this is what women do. But instead, what you're describing is free yourself of that and instead say, who am I really? And then step into that, and allows you to just be so much more expansive and to serve in a greater way. So I love that.
Absolutely. And it makes me think of a story that basically, I think all the top 15 at Mrs. America were basically all wearing a white gown. Now, I don't know anything about all of this like gown color thing. All I know is that when I got mine, I just wanted mine to be white with gold on it. And I found my dream gown. I loved it so much. And I really do think that most of the women at Mrs. America, same thing. They were like, this is the dress that makes me feel like $1 million, and this is what I'm going to wear. And guess what? Mrs. Washington, Natalie, she won, and she was wearing a white dress, and it didn't matter, And so the thing is, friends, like, what makes you feel amazing? What makes you feel alive? What makes you feel beautiful? What makes you feel like the best version of you? That is the most important place for you to focus your energy and attention.
Yes, absolutely. And build your brand from that, and you can't go wrong.
That's right.
So
Amen.
true. So we talked a lot about lifestyle, and I know that you and your husband are very intentional about the lifestyle that you are creating with your business, with your family. And congratulations to you for bringing him on board now. So exciting that you guys are now truly working together. How did you start that process to design a lifestyle? How do you really know what would fulfill you, and then how you can design your business to create that lifestyle?
Well, I think it's getting really clear on what your definition of success actually is. And that was a moment for me when I was working in my corporate career. I remember this moment watching my athletic director, he's incredible at his job. He is just such a magnetic personality. He loves his job. He's walking down the hallway. He's going and shaking hands with donors, and he's going to his office. And I had this thought hit me like a lightning bolt. And I realized, I don't want to sit in that chair. That's not the job that I want to have. Yet I'm on the tracks for that achievement system. And that's not actually in alignment with what success feels like for me. And it was like this, whoa, like this brain opening, like heart opening moment, and going, wow, I really need to sit down and get clear on this. And so when we get into systems, when we're working in a corporate environment, even if you get into a pageant system, perhaps, and there's a particular achievement system and way of being that it doesn't feel super in alignment with you and who you really are, you're never going to achieve your level of success because it doesn't actually live there. And so I got really clear on that, and I wrote that out. And of course it was in that letter and all those things. And I've really just taken those steps. And Ben and I talk about that all the time. We have a very open communication system in our marriage and in our partnership and business and life and everything, and parenting, all of it. And we're just constantly tweaking it. We're constantly adjusting and course correcting as we need to, and making edits to things. We're working on expanding our home. We want to expand our family. We want to expand our home. But we realized that we wanted Ben to come home first, and that felt more important. And so it was like, we're just going to reorder things a little bit, because the reality is for us, in terms of value and true success, is being together more than we are apart as a family. And with the way that we were set up with his police career and all, we were not together a lot. We were really missing each other. And thank you so much for your kind words. It's been this beautiful opportunity to really receive now that he is home, and to sort of recalibrate and say, okay, how do we want to do this now? And so I just think there's no finish line. There's no end point. It's just ongoing. And how cool that we can get to continue to reinvent and edit and shift ourselves and our goals throughout all the years of our lives.
Mm-hmm. What's your practice when you bump into something? Because the way that you're describing, gosh, it's like people just want to live in your house with you. Like you're like, oh, like it's expansive and personal development, and it's like all good and things are going to come around and stuff. But we all bump into things. What's that
Yeah.
like for you? And what do you do to get back on track?
Two things. So I call those my tripwires. When they're a real doozy, I call it a tripwire and I email my therapist and I say, hey, hit a tripwire, need to talk.
Nice.
So that's part one. I think it's having a really great support system. So I have a therapist. I have my amazing husband who is just, we're just like locked and loaded on energy, and he knows me better than I know myself in so many ways. Really incredible girlfriends who are there and who I am not afraid to be vulnerable with. I am willing to say, I don't have this figured out and I'm struggling right now and I really need your help. And by me doing that, it encourages them to do that. And we get to be, mutually supportive of each other. So that's, the one piece is like really having support. I think the second piece to it is I look at myself as basically a human experiment. And my emotions are my feelings are my emotional guidance system. They are my invitations to do a little bit more exploratory work when something comes up. And so I know for me that my pretty standard flavor of fear is fear of not being enough, fear of abandonment, fear of like annihilation theory, right? So like I'm not, especially being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, it's like it's there, like that is there. And that's something I've really worked very hard all the days of my life to work on. I did have an eating disorder for 15 years. That wasn't the right way to do it, but it was the only way I knew how. Yeah. And then I got into the therapy work that I needed. And then I got into personal development work I needed. And now it's like I've really transcended past the depth of that. But I know that when I get into those places of not feeling worthy, not feeling enough, and it could be around anything, whether that's like physical appearance, weight, not doing it right as a coach, not sharing enough value, all these things, not doing it right as a mom, that it's gonna take me back to that same old groove. And so I know that it's not original. The least original thing about us is our fear. Yeah. And so I think of that as an invitation and opportunity to just be gentle and to say, okay, what is happening here? And I love, one of my most favorite exercises that I have my clients do and that I do with myself is I think about, if I were to ask the inner child that lives inside of me, so the youngest version of me, that she's still in there and she's the one that starts to cry, right? When I'm in a therapy session and then my therapist asks me a question and I start crying, it's my inner child who's still scared. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, what does she need right now? And here's the invitation and the gift, Alycia, is that we now as adults and as women have the opportunity to compassionately parent ourselves in ways that maybe people couldn't have for us before. And that's okay, because we now are in a position to understand that, forgive that, and be compassionate around that and give ourselves what we need. And so I know that. And so I just go there. I just kind of triage myself emotionally. I lean into the people that I really need. And I recognize that, the world is not coming to an end. And here's the most beautiful part around all this. I thought that the world was coming to an end. And I lay on an operating room table and thought that I was going to die. And you know what was left? You know what was there at that last moment? Love and gratitude. Surrender, love, and gratitude. That's it. That's all that was left. So if that's what's left when we die, then what are we so afraid of while we're living?
Wow. Powerful stuff. Well, that was a word for someone, girl. That was a word for me. Yeah. I think we can all use that. Absolutely. Because you're right. That's the that's the thing that moves us forward. That's the thing that allows us to step into that call and allows us to serve rather than getting scared and running the other direction.
And when you feel out of alignment and you don't feel good and you feel, oh man, it's just the signal. It's like your inner being, the wisest part of you, waving the flag saying, hey, we're way off course right now. And you're trying to make yourself someone other than who you are. And that's why you experience pain. And that's why it feels bad. So just come back to home base and be yourself. And if those people over there don't approve of you and they're giving you a hard time about it, then bye-bye. Not going to hang out there. And this is a whole nother conversation, like with my family and all. Well, you know what? You're an adult now. You get to make your own choices. And you get to make a decision about what's acceptable and what's not, and also how you're going to respond to those experiences as well. Yeah. You get to decide that, no one else.
Wow. Well, I want to honor you, Amber, for this work that you have done, because it's not easy. And as you described, the elements of your life story coming together, the things that you have done to overcome and to step into this gift and into this dream is truly changing lives, mine included. But I know that it is changing lives all over the world. So I just want to honor you for doing that work, for getting in the trenches with it, and then for overcoming and stepping out. And I know it's a continued journey. It's not a one and done. It's something that you will continue pressing into. So I thank you for showing up in the world in that way. It's very powerful.
Oh, you're so welcome. And just thank you so much for those words. It means everything to me.
So I know that there are some people that are likely really wanting to connect with you. Maybe some potential business owners that are really considering working with you that feel those same values. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you guys can just head on over to my website at amberlilyestrom.com/breakthrough, and you can fill out a breakthrough call application, and we'll hop on the phone and talk about your goals and where you're at and where you need more support.
Perfect. I love that. So Amber, what are you most excited about right now? Like, what are you just jazzed over?
I'm actually about to get on a plane to go down and spend a couple of days with my team, my network marketing team, the Live Free and Thrive tribe, and my very best friend, Rachel Camfield. So I'm super psyched. And then the cool part is that my husband is coming with me, and he's my business partner. And this is the first time we're actually traveling together in our business. So I'm just so excited about that. I'm ready to pack my bag and hop on the plane and bring the babe to Nana so that she feels good and held where she needs to be, and go out and just have an incredible time inspiring and connecting.
This is what it's all about. Your dreams are coming into fruition. So I'm so glad that you are embracing that and letting it happen. I'm sure you'll be doing a lot of Insta stories.
You know it, girl.
Could you share your Insta handle? I love following you. It's so fun.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's just at Amber Lilyestrom. It's just my name. But you guys come on over, join the party. I keep it really real over there. I think it's a super important part of the process, and I just love being able to share that with people. So I would love for you guys to follow me, and I'll follow you back.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Amber, thank you again for being a part of the Win a Pageant podcast. Such a pleasure having you on today.
Hey, thanks so much for being a listener and an avid viewer of the Win a Pageant podcast. It's always an awesome pleasure having you here. So thank you again. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And I want to hear from you in the comments below. Would you please let me know what is a strategy or something that you learned from Amber today that you know you can implement almost right away? Or maybe in my conversation with Amber, a new idea came to your mind. Something was brought up for you. Maybe a dream that you remember dreaming or a vision that you have for your future. Please share it with us in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you got out of this. So thank you again for watching. Love you tons, and I'll see you next week.